was never replaced. And it is dark now.
On his corner?
Yeah, there used to be a tree
Oh,
took
wait,
out,
the tree took out the light?
everything, yeah. So there's no light there now, and
They used
it's
to be
dark.
on the pole.
Yeah. I mean, there's literally nothing there. They just reconnected the wires. Everything is dark, so.
Is that PSE&G, you think, or is that the
No, no.
the electric
That
company?
would be Paul's Bank Electric, but nobody ever told me that one. I've been in touch with them the last couple of days regarding the other things, but not, I didn't even know about that.
Right, anything else on that? Okay. I sent one of you guys an email from the resident about advertisement in the village. Did everyone have a chance to read it? Okay, so, I mean, I understand what he's saying, but we've always allowed there to be election signs on people's property. And my thought is this something that we want to look at to change?
I spoke to two attorneys,
Okay.
including Rachel Trammell from Trammell.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is fundamental free speech issue. We can't even.
But should we add that then? Why don't we just add, the exception is that advertising?
Because technically, we probably are on shaky grounds with any of our regulations in this regard. You know, as soon as you start, in fact, we said really within a year and a half ago, the court ruled very specifically on legislating content of signs. It's a First Amendment right. And there are always offensive signs that are protected in court because it's free speech. We can regulate signs on our property. We can sort of get involved with putting limits on the duration, but he said even there it's very shaky, and you know you're fine until all of a sudden you're not fine. Somebody says this is a First Amendment right and takes it, and then we wind up with all these again unbudgeted legal expenses to back it up. It really is one of those things that should be left, I feel, benign neglect. Leave it alone. Most people take down their signs after the election season.
Right.
And
I don't think that's what he's questioning, though. What he's
He's
questioning the
questioning
fact that he's getting a ticket for putting up his landscaping,
It
and
was
they're not.
actually a-
So
Yeah,
why
I
should
was
not be
gonna,
including that?
I was going to mention that privately to Sandy actually, but all right, I'll put it out here. What we're doing there is if somebody has a commercial sign, it's one of those gray areas. And so even there, where especially, I know one person who was talking to me, said that he was given a ticket for having a, I think it was a ticket, or he was approached about getting rid of where he parked his van. It's his van, it's his work business's van, but it has a big sign across it. And if you park that prominently at the end of your driveway, it's this big commercial sign. We all have agreed that we don't have a commercial district, we don't want commercial signs all over the place. But then when you get into it's a van, it goes away during the day, and so all these things are potentially
A lawsuit.
yeah, right. Somebody can litigate. That's the thing. And what we've done, and what's his name, the previous head, Bob was very good at this, is just talking to neighbors and saying, can we, do this and that, because if we put it down in our code, anything that is an expression is you get into First Amendment. And the law is very clear that you can't legislate content because it's free speech.
But we have a code.
Right. Well, that gets me back to why we are having even the hearing, because there are so many things in our code that are either contradictory or they're out and out not in conformance with the state code.
But why don't we take this opportunity and then why don't we change that part for the advertisement, make that the next thing that we do?
Well, what is the issue that he's saying? That he shouldn't be ticketed for having...
His paving
No,
company
he's not
had a
saying-
sign
he's not
out,
saying
and
he
he
should be
got a
ticketed.
ticket.
Yeah, but he's not saying he shouldn't be ticketed. He's saying the exception should include also political signs so that it's an exception. It's not in there. That's what he's saying.
You can't
According to,
legislate
according
political
to
signs.
New York
That's
State,
right.
Okay,
you
I'm just
cannot,
I mean, it's not even
you
close.
cannot control people
You can't
putting
do that.
political signs up, nor can you control
We're not
real
trying to
estate
control them.
signs.
All he's saying is, he understands people are gonna do that. Just add it in, that it's okay to do that.
Instead
Commercial
of raising the
signs?
bridge, we should be lowering the water. Okay?
I don't think it's that difficult to add the exception, political signs.
Listen, I'm just reporting to you, I spoke to 2 attorneys. One of them, of course, is with the state, another is this friend of mine I mentioned a couple of times, who is, a village attorney for 1,000,000 years in Nassau County, and he's well versed in all this stuff. And they said, as soon as you get into
What do you say?
content,
You can regulate commercial signs. You cannot regulate political signs, except that what municipalities often do is they have a time period related to an election, before and after that you can have a political sign. But anyway, you can regulate advertising, commercial signs,
Which is what our code
which
does.
is what our code does. Our code says that you cannot have advertising signs. And that's really it. I mean,
But we're not
Wait.
trying to regulate it.
well, if
We're
talking
just
about
trying to
our
say you
code-
can do it. And it's in the code, you can do it.
but our code right now does not prohibit
Well,
political signs.
Wade, I asked him a couple of times, and what Wade Beltrano told me was, he went, he says, you're okay until somebody then, because what we're doing is we're differentiating in terms of what the content of the sign is. So he said, you're okay as far as municipalities can legislate size of signs, placement of signs. He said, you can even say a sign has to be made out of a certain material. Hard as that is to believe, but he said as soon as you get into content, and if somebody, Joe's Electrical Company, if he puts that up there, it's no different than somebody saying vote for Joe. And he said, if you have it on your code and nobody has complained, then you're fine. Until somebody does complain. So,
Someone's complaining.
well, he's not. What he's saying is he just wants it to be equal, and he's technically right, but we're not going to say that we want to legislate political signs, but we are legislating something that Beltramo said is not so different, only in terms of content. So we can legislate how the sign is put, how long it's up, or whatever, but
I don't wanna do that. Do you wanna do that?
no, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we should even go there.
Just remember,
Just saying
he's a
it's-
lawyer.
Yeah,
So-
I know, Joe, if you feel that I'm not stating it correctly, I'll be happy to.
No,
you know,
We want to
We
sit
should
down
be
there
able to
and actually,
This is the one case that I think the code should be left alone.
Okay, so why don't we'll write him an email letting him know we reviewed it and we felt that political signs don't fall into this category and that we're gonna keep everything the way it is.
I mean, politics being what they are, the day will come when somebody will prominently display something that is offensive to somebody else. You get into religious things, and there's all kinds of things that could be put out there. And you hear about these text cases with hate speech, and then you could say, well, I know what hate speech is, but then there's that gray area, and the Supreme Court allowed some of these offensive groups to march or something. They had the right to march, and it's like a nightmare. We don't want to go down that road.
yeah, basically, this is from the state, and this kind of basically reviews exactly what you said. Some local governments have attempted to deal with the clutter of election campaign signs by limiting the period in which they may be posted. Typical local regulations specify a period after an election by which such signs must be removed. Some local regulations also limit the posting of such signs to a specified period before a primary or election, or the number of such signs that may be posted. If challenged, such local regulations are likely to be struck down by the courts as an unlawful interference with the right of free expression as guaranteed by the First Amendment.
Where'd that come from?
This came from state law on elections, restriction on election signs.
I mean, I still,
That's it.
I still would like to emphasize, though, that it's important for us to maintain an awareness of the issue among residents of the village, to just have everybody cooperate, because it's a slippery slope as soon as we get dragged into it. It's to say, look, you want to put up a free speech, you can put up whatever you want to put up with, but don't leave it up forever, don't leave it, and, the safety guys can be very effective in doing that.
Some pretty interesting signs at the end of this road.
Well, okay, but it's the person's First Amendment right to do it.
So. Okay. Send an email. All right, did everyone review the, packet from code enforcement on rentals? I thought it was excellent, by the way. I thought that they did a great job. I really think that there should be, really, I don't see any changes, and I thought that this would be a good thing to send out to everybody to look at and do a public input on.
Why do we require so many copies of surveys?
That was, funny you said that. I don't know, I was thinking the same thing.
If I may, I believe in copying from the town of Brookhaven's, because they're proven, their codes have already been proven. So what I did was I took that and then narrowed it down. We can change it, we can adapt it, but that's what Brookhaven's done already require.
I mean, I think one survey would be enough, because we could make copies, but. And as far as the COs, we have all of them, we know what they have, right? When, any houses that are having work done, they have a CO. You have that book?
You have C of O's, C of E's, but you also have you have a few houses here in the village that have absolutely nothing. I had one today, it was tough with the owner. There's not one thing on record on the house, period. He's got to go for C of E. But we have a couple of those. Right, Jeff? Yours is too.
I know.
So do we want to get a clean copy of this,
You
put
got
it
a couple
out?
that predate the village, so they've never done anything since, or, anything that we caught them at doing. So the house is basically the same as it was in 1929 and 30 before it became a village. Difficult.
Well, I think one thing, it brings in income. It's, we have these houses that they have multiple people in them. They're using the garbage, they're using the beaches, they're using the roads. This is a great way to pay for some of those services.
Tried this before.
My gut feeling was this was so comprehensive as to have people try and avoid filling it out. It's kind of like what I've spoken about many times with building permits.
We can simplify
And
it.
so I really think that the idea is, behind all this, is to know what houses are being rented out and to make sure that the conditions are safe.
That's exactly right.
And as a result of having that information conveyed to us, we get a fee for the rental, and that's revenue, of course, but it's also for our private effort. This, I think, is overly comprehensive.
We can make it more simple.
I just think it needs to
Could be a one-page
hugely edited.
form and just,
Well, as soon as you give somebody a form that.
well, I don't think that was for the form, I think that was for us to have all the
Okay,
background to
well,
it.
they're always rolled up in their head and they say, I'm not doing it. Let
Right,
them-
it could be
let them
something like
find it,
this.
Let them find it.
Just one page.
What we're saying is they need a current survey. Okay, so they have to go out and they gotta get a survey. And then I was told, well, we don't always require a current survey for building permits. We're very loose about that, and whatever. Well, it shouldn't be, well, in this case we'll do it, in that case we won't do it. It should be written down, and we should stick to it, but I think we should say, look, I mean, if your survey hasn't changed, and it's 8 years old, you don't have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars to get a new one, just because you're gonna be going away and you only have to.
Right, if the building inspector comes and checks and it matches what you have, then what does it matter?
Well, then we should make a provision for that.
Okay.
As
So
opposed to
you
leaving out
want
to
to
somebody.
simplify this then?
Yeah.
Okay. Not everyone. Anyone else want to say anything? All right, Jeff, you want to talk about Walnut Beach and the grant?
Yeah, as I said, it's not a current issue because this is the second time it's happened. We had the possibility of a grant, or at least competing for some grant money from Sub-County Water, I believe it was, which we actually qualified. The first one, when I really investigated, we didn't qualify. But for this one, we qualified, it was a matching grant. So the more we got, the more we'd have to come up with. And so the scope of the job changed. And when I went to the meeting in Hopog, they said that, well, we have $1 million and and they floated a bond for that. So they were thinking 4 $250,000 grants. And I said, what are you kidding? I mean, so we're gonna come up with another 250 to match that? You got it, you know. So, some back and forth, and I spoke to some of them after the meeting, and their first reason for it was, we don't have the staff to really go over so many applications, and, there's a room full of people representing all the villages or whatever. So they said, actually, when I explained it to them, that we would qualify, it sounds like a good idea, and the idea was, we have to address, I think everybody agrees that we have to address the issue of Walnut Beach and the end of Walnut. It's impassable after a rain. The beach is shot from high tides, and the marsh is really not the way it was supposed to be in its natural state. So I thought that we could do something where we cleaned up the marsh, because there's grant money for that. Because that gets into the clean water issues of Jonathan Harbor and that. Repave the road, but also in doing that, because it's all pitted, it's a real mess, but also have it slant down towards the marsh. But the idea would be, according to, I met with Rich Parrish and Mike Chaffee, and we needed to have drains down there that capture the water, and then the marsh would be an overflow. And they said that would pass muster, but you'll never we have to go through DEC, it's a whole process, and the closing date on this thing was something like
July 1st, wasn't it?
July, I believe,
Yeah.
it was, but we're not gonna make it. So, what we thought, and I think I'm gonna bring it up at the meeting, is to see if we can get, we have a lot of people who have an environmental background in the village, and to see if we can get some input as far as what we could do, especially planting and also removing from that marsh area, that would be returning it to its pristine natural state, and also pass muster because of that with the DEC. But I think more tricky business is the marsh is actually our area. If we have a couple of drains down there, it would be the runoff for the excess. So we would still be having road runoff going down into that marsh. And so it's a little tricky. What they suggested at the county is that we open up the marsh and have it be tidal. And I don't think any of us would want that. It's like it changes everything. But we envisioned a plan that if we could get everybody on the same page, we could also greatly improve the beach. And I think there'd be some enthusiasm for that, since it's really the beach for the side now. California's not a beach really anymore. So the beach could be expanded backwards with sand back there, and a berm, and more sand, and we can open it up, remove the pole, we can make it nice. We would have to put some kind of a barrier between the road and the marsh. And of course, we want that to look scenic,
That pole doesn't go to anything. It comes up.
I told you guys that.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't know that.
Well,
We used to go to House 23, and when he moved in, he had to remove. He had to go to the underground.
Well, Joe said it used to go, possibly fed the pig pens up here.
Yeah, it used to
It just,
P23
it just ends,
too.
it terminates in the pole in the
Yeah,
road.
that's it.
I know. So we don't need any of that, but the pole itself is cockeyed, and it's got all that, those lights, nobody wants the lights, and there's other things that we could do.
Jeff,
So we're
back-
talking about
One
what?
question quick, when you said expand the beach backward, you don't mean into the marsh itself, do you?
No, to the road,
To the road. Good.
yeah.
Okay.
And, so you get into some aesthetic issues, you get into DEC and regulatory issues, but there was nothing there, and I defer to those guys, there's nothing there on the surface that would say, you just can't do that in this day and age. I mean, we could do all those things, and we would be dealing with runoff, we'd be dealing with the marsh, and we would improve the aesthetics and use of our beach. So, I'm going home on this. I think it would be a very good project. We just have to figure out how to fund it. And the thing to do is to put together a committee of some kind, start answering all these different questions, and get whatever background stuff we have to do for the next round, there's always a grant coming along. And ideally, it's not a matching grant. But, you know, we could almost have